So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning to our sessions with Liz from Young and Healthy. We're always glad to be here. Before we begin the presentation, please know that the session is being recorded. Therefore, if you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your cameras and your microphones. And if you have any questions or comments, you can share via the chat box with the group. Also, we are offering Spanish interpretation. If you need Spanish interpretation, there's a little globe in the bottom of your screen, and you can select Spanish as your language. Para los que necesiten interpretación al español, hay un globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla y ahí pueden seleccionar el idioma español. And gracias por acompañarnos. Liz, whenever you're ready.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Here we are, another Thursday. This series, we've been talking about resilience and how do we build resilience in our kids. We have really all needed to tap into our resilience over the last a little more than a year now, right? And so how do we, this is not the last time we're going to need resilience. And we want our kids to be able to kind of roll, right? To be able to be stronger than whatever comes at them. So we're kind of breaking resilience down a little bit in this series. My name is Liz. I work for an organization called Young and Healthy. I've worked with all ages of kids. I've been in classrooms. I've been in some unique programs where we've worked with teaching teenagers how to about child development because they're as they become teen moms. And I have two kids of my own. I have a 24-year-old and a son who will be 28 next week. It's crazy. Can't even believe that it's possible that much time, he's that old, but it happens. So we'll use a lot of experience from what I've learned through child development and psychology, my child development psychology background. And we'll talk a lot about those things. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put into the chat a link to our virtual sign-in sheet. And if you would just click on that link that's in the chat right now and sign in, that would be really wonderful. The course number, you're going to be asked for a course number. It's 3045. So that's in the chat. While you all do that, I will give you a little bit of background about Young and Healthy. Young and Healthy is a nonprofit that has been operating in Pasadena for the past 31 years, providing healthcare services to children. We provide direct healthcare services to children completely free of charge through all volunteer medical professionals who see our kids in their offices and don't charge anybody anything. So the kids don't get charged, Young and Healthy doesn't get charged, it's all free. And any kind of, if you name it, that's the kind of services we provide, anything you need. Dental, eyeglasses, orthopedics, pediatrics, you name it. And then a few years ago when California Care kind of came on into the world and became a thing in our lives, we started providing insurance enrollment and support. So once our families have seen their medical professional and everything's calmed down and everybody feels secure again, then we work with families to enroll them in the insurance that works best for their family. And then of course, because insurance isn't so easy to use all the time, we also support families while they're using it, answer questions and whatnot. And we do that for the entire community, not just Young and Healthy families who've received services. So anybody who needs that. And then a few years ago, right around that same time, we introduced our trauma-informed care, mindfulness, and parent education programs. We've had parent education for a while, but we started really kind of beefing it up, so to speak. And then we have a mindfulness program that we have been providing for the last 2 years to kids in kindergarten and 6th grade. We have a mindfulness expert on staff who has developed a program, and we bring it to classrooms because we know that these are the kind of things that build resilience. And we're all about making sure that we are helping families to be as strong as they can, giving kids the coping skills that they need. And during the pandemic, we may have gone home, but we didn't stop working. So we're still doing our thing, just like all of you are trying to figure out how to do this differently. So have we been. One of the things that we have been able to do is partner with Day One. And we got a grant so that we could provide tax preparation services to families in order for them to access the earned income tax credit. Because having this extra money, this money in your pocket, helps to reduce stress, which helps to improve family health, right? It's when you're not so stressed about how the bills are getting paid, you're able to focus more on doing things with your family. And so it's not a little bit of money. It can be up to almost $7,000. And so and we're continuing this program through mid-May. So we're coming up on the end of this program for this year. So if you still are someone if you qualify, or if this is something that you know somebody who would qualify, please reach out to either Young and Healthy or Day One, and we'll get the services to you. So resilience, this is what is it's a response, right? Significant adversity and how we respond, when we can respond in a positive, adaptive way, that's called resilience. So we hear that, right? It's kind of become a buzzword, hasn't it? But that's what that means. And there's 6 basic components that go into resilience that we're kind of dissecting through this series. The first one we talked about was optimism. How to have optimism, how to be optimistic about the future instead of kind of hearing or being faced with adversity and sitting back and going, yeah, I can't do anything about this. Like I'm powerless. No, we have an optimistic attitude. We think about, okay, how can I manage this? I know that this is going to be okay because I can figure it out, right? And then we talked about emotional awareness and control last week. How does being aware of our emotions and feeling like we can control our responses to those emotions, that also builds resilience. I'm aware of what's going on, right? And so I can respond in a thoughtful way. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about impulse control, right? Impulse control could also be known as self-regulation and self-control, okay? Maybe you've heard these terms thrown around also, but self-regulation is being able to understand, why do I feel a certain way? And how do I respond, right? There's a stressor, something's kind of coming up. Exactly, Virginia, name it to tame it, right? I'm having feelings, they're coming up, and my ability to recognize that I'm having a feeling and control my response to it is self-regulation, right? And what I do, how I manage my behaviors, is self-control, right? So I'm not going to reach out and punch my brother in the arm because I'm mad at him. I'm going to recognize I'm having these feelings and manage my response to that. And that's the difference between self-regulation and control. So how do we teach self-regulation and control? The same way we teach almost anything, right? We need practice. It's a skill, right? We're going to talk about the brain and how that works in our brain, because y'all know that that's my thing. I love to talk about how our kids' brains develop and how these skills are built. So practice. We need to practice self-regulation and self-control in order to perfect it, right? In order to get, and I'm not quite sure, I'm going to be 54 next Wednesday, and I'm not sure that I have self-control and self-regulation down, right? I'm still practicing. And then modeling, right? Yeah, Virginia's right. It starts with us. So in that vein, what I will say is my husband and I were, talking a little while ago, and I said, I'm feeling nervous today. I don't know why I'm feeling nervous. I'm not sure why, but I was right. That modeling of being able to say, gosh, I don't know what's happening. I'm feeling nervous. And by addressing it, I can then kind of, number one, start to figure out why maybe I'm feeling nervous, so that I can figure out what do I need to make myself feel calmer, right? To feel better. And how am I going to respond to that in my behavior? What am I going to do? And then the last one on here is connection. And well, I talk about connection all the time. It's the key, right? When we feel like we have a connection to another person, when we feel connected to the adults, when we're children and we feel connected to the adults in our lives, it calms down our midbrain, okay? Our midbrain is the part of our brain, this amygdala and hippocampus, that's the part of our brain that responds and takes over our brain function, for the most part, when we are not feeling connected, which causes us to feel unsafe, right? Which causes us to feel unsure or uncertain. And it's that feeling of not having a connection. Where do I belong? Where am I grounded? It's a little bit like being in a snow globe that got all shaken up, right? That's how it feels sometimes to not feel connected. You're not sure what's going on. You're not sure which way is up, right? And when we feel connected, it calms that stress, that danger response that we have, that's physical. And then we're able to get into the thinking, learning parts of our brain and really develop, create neural pathways so that we can develop and practice these skills of self-regulation and self-control being one of them, or two of them actually, right? These are all the prefrontal cortex skills. This is the most, it's right at the very front of our brain. It is home to our executive function skills. These skills that you're seeing here on this slide, like emotional control, planning and prioritizing, organization, impulse control, flexible thinking, right? These are all prefrontal cortex skills. And this part of our brain, this very sophisticated part of our brain, where these very sophisticated skills are kind of built and developed, is the last part of our brain to reach maturity, right? I really feel like it's important for us to keep this in mind, right? That our kids are going to be working on building these skills, and they need practice developing these skills into their 30s and beyond. But that's when this part of the brain is known to kind of reach maturity, is when we get into that age of about 30, which means my son's got a couple more years. So practice and repetition is the way we learn these, right? The more we practice, the better we're going to get. That repetition creates those neural pathways that create long-term memory. And that's really what these skills are, is they're here in our long-term memory. Julia has a question.
Yes, good morning. I wanted to ask you if there's a study or if you know of any information of the best way I can put it is like delayed maturity, meaning as time has gone by, this is just my opinion, I don't know statistically or, information wise, that it appears that maturity is a little bit more delayed than it used to be. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
I don't know that there's a right or wrong to that either. But what I will say is what I have done a lot of reading. There's a book, I have it called Thrivers by Michelle Borba, Dr. Michelle Borba. And I just recently read it, and she addresses that, and mostly in a way that we understand that our kids, what they're exposed to is different, right? What our expectations of them is different, which means if we go back to the practice and repetition, right, that they're not they're not practicing those same skills. There is a lot more threat-based messaging coming at our kids, right? I was just talking about this with my in-laws last night, that our kids are hearing all kinds of stuff that existed in the past, but maybe you and I didn't have to hear about it every single day, all day long, because it wasn't coming at us, via the internet mostly, or the 24-hour news cycle, right? The newspaper used to get delivered to the house, and if you read it, you read it. If you didn't read it, you didn't have to hear it. So I think it has a lot to do with that. That it's a different maturity, right? They're maturing in different ways, in different skills. Does that make sense, Julie?
Yeah, it does. I think you hit a key word, which is our expectations as parents. I think that's very important, and it's taken a while for me to figure that out, because my expectations and his, what the reality is very different. And as parents, we have to come to that realization, especially now with online learning and everything. It's so different. But thank you for that, though.
Absolutely. It's about adjusting our expectations, right? It's about kind of recognizing, like you just said, things are different. What does that mean for my kid? It's not going to be the same as maybe the experiences we've had. So one of the ways though, Julia, that we can kind of address that is be a little bit more intentional if there are certain things that you really want your child to experience or learn or work on or practice, right? We have to be more intentional about providing those opportunities, right?
Yeah, another quick question. I don't mean to take you off your
No,
topic
I
or
love
anything,
it.
but it's related though. It's related because
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody mentioned the modeling or whether it was you or one of the other parents. I think that is so important, and it's hard because my husband, I'm gonna have to throw him out there. I don't know if it's a nature versus nurture situation, but my husband is a little bit more explosive, you know, and with my son, obviously he sees that, so I feel like he's mirroring what my husband is doing, but I also question, is it part of genetics? I know it's probably both, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's very challenging.
It is challenging. My husband is not an explosive kind of guy, but I was raised in a family with a dad who had that more explosive thing. And I will tell you, I had to work really hard on not doing that. I recognize when I became a parent, it was natural for me to do that. So what we now know is it's not nature or nurture, it's nature and nurture, right? So they both play a part. Not only did we learn that, so that's what we do, right? We learn because that's what was modeled for us, but there are certain things that when we experience, it's called epigenetics, not to get too technical on everybody today, but it's what's been kind of recognized now is that when we have certain experiences or exposures, it causes different things that might be hanging out in our DNA to express themselves.
Okay.
Right? Maybe I have a predisposition to have a little bit more, maybe I'm a little bit more sensitive, for lack of a better way to say it, Ray. Maybe I'm a little bit, my window of tolerance is smaller too right now. That's happening, as Virginia's kind of pointing out here, right? So yeah, you might have a propensity for that or the possibility of that. And then because the environment you were raised in, it comes out in you. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. And, listen, the other thing to remember is right now, we are all experiencing hard things, which means we're all operating a little bit in that I feel uncertain, unsafe, unsure, which causes our window of tolerance, which causes our patience to be a little shorter, right? And so, yeah, we all might. And I agree with Virginia, right? We're isolated. We need that social one-on-one closeness with friends. And remember that all day long, we are all learning new things. And because learning is not only when we sit down and open a book and do some math problems. Learning is all of our experiences. So everything we're experiencing is learning. And we're all having to learn how to do old things a new way, right? Everything, all the way down to going to the market, right? We get in the car now and go, okay, do you have a mask? I don't know. Do you have a mask? But do we have extra masks? Where's the mask, right? We get it. Am I supposed to touch this? Is this a clean cart, right? Things that we never had to think about in simple everyday tasks, we are now having to relearn how to do. And that's hard on our brain. That's really hard on our brain's very busy. And when our brain is busy, it's noisy in there, right? There's a lot going on. But that repetition, and our midbrain also has kind of does two things. Our hippocampus, right? That kind of does two things. One is it stores our short-term memory. So all those things I just mentioned, that learning, right? Learning how to do old things a new way, that's all being stored in our short-term memory. And then at night when we sleep, that's when it all kind of we build new neural pathways. Our brain gets to work, building new neural pathways. But it's being stored there, and that makes that really crowded when we're learning so much, right? We need more brain breaks. We need more opportunity for our brain to kind of relax and get those memories moving in a different way. The other thing that our hippocampus does is it helps us to manage our emotional memories. Emotional memories are the way we remember how something made us feel, right? So if I have a happy experience or a positive experience with something, not only am I remembering the experience, but my whole body is remembering, all of my senses are remembering how that experience made me feel. And then, that have positive or negative, right? So if I have a positive experience with someone, the next time I see them, or maybe have a smell associated with it or whatever, when I see you, my brain is going to go, oh, I have positive, happy memories associated with this person. And you feel happy, right? You feel safe, you feel connected. The reverse is also true. If we have a negative experience, whether it was a one-time thing or not, our body remembers that. And so when next time we see that person or have that same experience, our body goes, okay, wait, whoa, this wasn't a happy thing. And so we kind of predict the next thing that's going to happen based on those experiences. So if I had a positive experience, my brain is going to predict what's going to happen next based on that experience. And that's, our brains are prediction machines. They're constantly working to figure out what comes next. Oh, wait a minute, I know I've been here before. Now I can guess what's going to happen next. I can predict what's going to happen next. And that can sometimes work against us, right? However, when we provide our kids with positive, repeatable, predictable experiences, we lead them to feel secure, right? So if they know they can come to us, what they've learned over time is that I'm going to let you talk to me, I'm going to listen, I'm going to make sure that we're connected, and we're going to talk things through. That makes our kids feel safe and secure with us. They're going to keep coming back because they know they're going to get that experience from us, right? As with a lot of other things in their lives. But it's about being that predictable person who our kids know kind of what's going to happen, right? Doesn't mean that we don't ever fall, maybe go closer to the lines or outside the lines every now and again. It just means that for the most part, we're pretty predictable. They know what to expect from us. Because what we're trying to do is not let our kids get into this threat-based mindset. This amygdala and hippocampus gets triggered. They go into what we call fight or flight. Many of you have heard me talk about it before. Maybe you've heard others talk about it. We also have freeze, which is that our brain just kind of shuts down, which literally is what's happening. Or kids, some of us go into like, okay, I'll just do what you need me to do so you'll leave me alone, which can be another threat-based mindset, right? That can also be another way that we respond to what we call threat. And remember, a threat is not only a physical threat or something big. A threat is if our brain predicts that this is not going to be a happy outcome because I've had this experience before, it triggers that threat-based mindset. And it's a physical response, right? We can feel it in our body. And this is the beginning of self-regulation. Self-regulation is, the beginning of that is recognizing that this is a physical response when we start to feel threatened, right? That our body actually is triggered to do all kinds of things. One of the things, as I mentioned earlier, I was feeling nervous this morning, right? And how did I know that? Well, I kind of could tell that my chest felt a little tight and my tummy was a little rumbly, right? It wasn't a happy tummy. And I recognized, I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I'm feeling nervous. I need to kind of get that in check before I log on to talk to all of you today or to do whatever, because it's a physical response. And that's the beginning of self-regulation, is being able to say, I am feeling a certain kind of way physically, which means I'm feeling it's a clue to how I'm feeling emotionally. And I need to address that, right? When we are in that threat-based place, it's like the internet's down. It's like we don't have, because we can't really think, right? It's like not having access to the internet or having a spotty internet connection, right? Like you're only hearing every third or fourth word, which really also just means you can't get the whole message either. So remembering that it's our brain trying to keep us safe. It's what we need our brain to do for us when there's real threat. The problem is that it trips us up sometimes when there's a perceived threat and not necessarily a real threat. And I perceive threat based on my past experiences. And so self-regulation requires us to identify our feelings, take care of ourselves, and then meet our needs. And self-control is the ability to push that pause button, to be able to say, okay, hold on, I'm feeling a certain kind of way. My instinct is maybe to yell, or my instinct is to lash out. But instead of doing that, I'm going to stop, I'm going to reflect, and then I'm going to respond thoughtfully. I'm going to respond with purpose, with intention, and not just out of a reflex, right? Which is totally different. And so how do we help our kids at the beginning, right? And even maybe now, if they need that skill, to press the pause button? How do we help them to gain these skills? Well, one thing that we need to do is to recognize that all behavior is communication. So maybe our kids are not able to verbalize how they're feeling, but they're behaving in a certain kind of way, right? Maybe your toddler doesn't have words, and so they thrash and kind of throw a tantrum. Maybe your school age kid, kicks the table or kicks the wall when they get frustrated, or your middle school kid throws a backpack and kind of explodes and gets loud. Those behaviors are all, yes, unacceptable, to no doubt, but our job as parents, as far as teaching self-regulation and self-control, is to look beyond those behaviors and figure out what's going on with our kid, right? Because there's something deeper going on. Behavior lets us know that there's a need to be met or a skill to be learned, right? So either maybe one of our kids is feeling a little disconnected and they don't know how to say that, and so they kind of lash out, right? That's a need to be met. Or maybe our 2-year-old is kind of tantruming, or our 4-year-old is kind of thrashing because they don't have the words to tell us what they need or how they feel. That's a skill that needs to be learned, right? So it's one of the two. That's not to say that we allow behavior that we find unacceptable, but maybe don't address it right in that moment, right? In the moment, it would probably be more effective from a parenting perspective if we were less furious and a little more curious, right? Instead of saying, that's not going to be okay with me, and addressing the behavior, we look a little deeper and get curious about why are you behaving this way? Why are you not able to get yourself under control right now? What do I need to do? How can I guide you, right? And that goes back to that modeling and the teaching and the repeating. In those moments, I think what we need to do is remember they're trying, right? They really are trying. It may not seem that way to us, but they are, right? Remember, that's a prefrontal cortex skill. It's a lot of work to get all the way up to this part of our brain. It takes a lot of effort and repetition and sophistication to be able to do the things that we're talking about. They're still learning how to resist temptation. I mean, goodness, so am I still learning how to resist temptation, right? And then if we just decide that we're going to insist it has to be done our way, we're really probably it's going to be a lose-lose situation, which means everybody's going to walk away unhappy. It's different if we're able to kind of figure out a win-win situation where everybody's heard, everybody has something to contribute, and then we can move on to the behavior and addressing, okay, well, next time you can't, kick the dog. That's not going to be okay. Virginia, you had your hand up. Or maybe not.
Yes.
Go.
I have a teen, and
God love you.
what I have learned through the readings that you have recommended and your workshops is that it's all up to me. And I'm gonna tell you, when I see like behaviors that are totally unacceptable, I stop and I think, what is he trying to say, and that is very hard to do, but I am to the point that I'm getting there, it's like, okay, what is he trying to do, or what is trying to say? And then I think, like, what do I want him to learn from this?
Oh, great.
And how? But like you said, you cannot teach at the moment of care because the brain is shut down, right? And my
Right.
brain is also shut down because I'm so pissed off, right? So I wait and I try what you always say, connect. And I go back to when he was a toddler. And he's like, yeah, I know you're really upset. And this didn't work out. This is a miracle. When you start recognizing his feelings, he diffuses right away. Everybody should try that. And it sounds crazy, but it's truth. And all of a sudden, I need a hug, yes, blah, blah, blah. And that was it. Then he goes back to what he was doing. And then I'm thinking like, what do I want him to learn? You know, and how am I going to do it? And then later on, I talk about that. So
Yeah.
it works. And it's crazy,
Perfect.
but it works. It does work. I want to say that.
Does, but here, the other thing, Virginia, I just want to point out to, first of all, you just kind of summed up every message I ever try to give parents while we're doing this perfectly, right? That was perfect. So A+ for you. But other thing is we have to be patient with ourselves, because guess what? We could say these same things about ourselves. We're trying, right? We're learning. We're trying to build neural pathways that cause us, that make us more, that our go-to is to connect, rather than our go-to is maybe to get mad or to, right, or to lose it. We still have a hard time trying to resist that temptation, right, in a different way, but that temptation of doing things maybe the old way and switching to the new way. And then we have to recognize that we're still working on that win-win. What is the win-win? I love that you said that too, Virginia. What you said was, you know, you go back and say, okay, what do I want him to learn? Right? Being really thoughtful about it. I love that. Because it's our job is not to tell them what to do, but it's really to guide them and love them while they figure it out for themselves. Right? If we can do that, if we can back up and say, okay, what do you need? Let me help you figure out what you need rather than let me meet your need. I have a hard time doing that, right? My thing is that I want to jump in and fix everything. My kids call me with something going on. Oh yeah, this happened. And maybe it's about money, right? Oh gosh, it's going to be really tight this month. I short on the rent. And, you know, but then they tell you they went out to dinner twice and you're like, oh, while I do want to jump in and help, it's really not my job to jump in and help. It's my job to guide you while you figure out how to manage your money better in the future, right? But I tend to be that person who wants to jump in and do it. And of course, at different ages, how much we're guiding and how much we're, you know, doing for them changes, right? When they're really little, we are their outside brain. Right? We have to self-regulate for them until they can pick it up. The dance that's going on all the time as parents is that we're figuring out how much of this can you handle and how much of this do you still need me to really be that outside brain for you. But as they get older, we can turn it over to them more, right? We can say, this is more on you. One of the questions I really love that we could ask our kids more often is, how can I support you right now? What can I do right now to help you figure this out, to help you, to support you while you figure it out, right? Do you need me to sit here and hold your hand? Do you need me to go across the room and just know that I'm close? Do you need me to leave so that you can have a minute to calm down? How can I support you right now, right? Do you need to talk it through? Do you need options? What do you need? How can I support you right now? Because these big feelings, lots of hugs and reassurance. I need that, Virginia, come on. I need the hugs and reassurance. Those big feelings can really overwhelm us, right? And when we get past why we're why we're behaving a certain way and what are the feelings that we're having, that's when we can really address it. And that's when we're really building that self-regulation and that self-control. When we focus on behavior, our brain's going to find another way to get its needs met. So let's say we've got a child who is maybe has big outbursts, right? Whether like tantrums or outbursts, they yell, they whatever. And we say, okay, that behavior is not okay. And we address the behavior. Maybe we offer, maybe we punish for the behavior. Maybe we do things to make that behavior go away. But if we haven't figured out what the need was behind that, another behavior is going to come in and take over. So now instead of having a kid who's like explosive, Now we have a kid who withdraws and hides, right? Because their brain is still saying, but I didn't get what I needed. I'm not allowed to do that. I still, though, don't have words, and I don't know, I have a need that I need to get met, and another behavior will jump in there. So being able to not focus on behavior and focus on those needs. So one of the things that we can talk about with our kids too is these zones of regulation. You guys, many of you have heard me talk about doing check-ins with our kids. Where are you at? Are you blue? Are you green? Are you yellow? Are you red? Like where, all of you right now, just take a second, kind of figure out where are you on here? Right, I guess I would say I'm kind of in the yellow, right? Because I'm a little worried, nervous. I'm feeling a little nervous today. So I might be a little bit in the yellow. I know that means I have to take care of myself in a different way today, right? When I need to take more time, and you probably need to slow down a little bit, right? Because that's kind of where I'm at. And that's the beginning of self-regulation. This is another tool. Before we can regulate, we need to identify, how am I feeling, right? And so using this feelings thermometer is one way that we can kind of talk to our kids about it. The zones of regulation maybe, or maybe you want to talk about, use this feelings thermometer. Everybody, something different works for everybody, right? Figure out what works best for you and try to implement. And here's the other thing. You might try something and go, yeah, that didn't work so well. Next, right? Move on to the next one. Figure out another way that we can introduce this. All right, so some of the things that we can do, let our kids make sure they know we see them, I see that you're trying to tell me something. I recognize that your behavior is a message to me. Seen is super easy with our infants. They cry, we go, oh, baby needs something, and we go to the baby. That's recognizing, that's being seen. And sometimes what our kids need, instead of us running to them, is to just let them have a minute, right? Let them calm down, get back into that place where their brain starts opening up. It's not shut down anymore, so that they can also recognize that we need that sometimes as parents, right? We need a minute. Sometimes we just, okay, hold on a minute. I need to cool off, or I need to relax, or I need to think about this. I'll be back in a minute. And then make sure our kids are feeling safe by listening, by connecting, right? Letting them know I'm here. I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to listen. And then we soothe our kids by understanding them, by giving them lots of hugs and reassurance, right? Whatever it is that they need that's soothing to them. And that might be different all the time, right? Sometimes soothed is, I know that you're here. I know you've listened, but right now I don't want to talk about it. And that's okay, right? We talked to my son a few weeks ago on the phone, and I was like, are you okay? He said, actually, I'm going through a rough one right now, right? He was going through a rough time with a situation in his life. And he said, but I don't want to talk about it right now. That was so hard for me, right? To just go, you don't want to talk about it? Like, that's what we do. We talk, but he wasn't ready. And that was really hard for me to know that what was soothing to him was knowing that we were there, but he didn't want to talk about it yet, right? It's so hard to do. This parenting thing, super challenging. Nobody told us how hard this was going to be, right? So again, how do we get those brains back online? Relationship and connection, listening, not judging, name it to tame it, be present, put down your phone, right? We don't need to be looking at our phone while we're talking to our kids, or we could turn off the TV or stop, put the dishes down, turn around and be really present with our kids. They really need that. Yes, it is difficult to soothe in the middle of chaos, right? But it is what we need in order to help self-regulate. But we need to self-regulate before we can help our kids self-regulate. Don't forget that, right? A dysregulated adult cannot help a dysregulated child to find regulation. We have to we have to be the calm so that they can match our calm, right? When we come into it dysregulated, not going to help. Try not to get hooked. It's so easy to get hooked because our kids are upset and then we start to get upset. Oh, that this terrible injustice that was done to our child. And we right away come to their defense. But not getting hooked, let them have it. Let them own it. It's okay. And again, this is really hard. This is super hard to do. So I'm acknowledging that. I want to honor all of you for doing it. I really give you all, those of you who sign on and do this live, or those of you who listen later, I really want to just honor you that you're willing to reach out and say, I want to do this better. And I need some ideas, some thoughts, some ideas on how I can do this better. Remember too, that you are the expert on your family. I might be able to give you some tips and clues, be able to talk to you about how the brain works, explain to you what self-regulation and self-control is, how we build it, but you are the expert on your family, right? So what's going to work in your family might be different than what works in another family. And you need to figure out what works for you. And you guys, you have it, right? Then that's why you're logged on. That's why you're listening. And remember to give yourselves a break, please. Eat well, try to sleep, exercise compassion and forgiveness towards yourself, right? Yeah, today wasn't my best day, but that's okay. I can try again tomorrow, right? I get another shot. Spend some time in either meditation or exercising, taking care of yourself physically and emotionally. So taking care of yourself is not selfish. Taking time for yourself is not selfish. Beyond that, when you take that time for yourself and you model that you are taking care of yourself, that's that teaching self-regulation and self-control, right? I have a need, I'm going to fill it. That's modeling self-regulation and control. That's modeling resilience. Okay. I have 2 mindfulness exercises that I will do with you. This one today, if you guys are ready, unless there's any other questions that you want to ask before we do this. This is the simplest one. This is it's also my go-to, my favorite. It's just a simple breathing exercise. What you do is you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 7, and exhale for a count of 8 through your mouth. And it's that push, push, push hard exhale that helps to drive down your heart rate, right? This is a really great way to, yes, be a good example for your kids. If they see you doing this, that's another, yeah. That is how we teach this. So let me guide you through it. I will count. Everybody kind of just take a second, get comfy. Do a little self-check-in. How are you feeling? Are you feeling anything different? Don't judge it. Don't worry about it. Just notice it. Are you feeling a certain kind of way? Or are you just kind of chill? That's all good too, right? When we practice these kinds of exercises while we're calm, when we're not dysregulated or when things are not chaotic, that's when we really learn, we're teaching our brain how to use these exercises the best. So we like to practice in times of calm. All right, now take a deep breath in through your nose for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do it one more time. In through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now just do that check-in again. Notice how you might be feeling. Anything change? Anything feel different? Maybe your heart rate feels a little slower. Maybe not. That's okay too. But that's a great one to keep in your back pocket, right? It's the old, this one can replace that counting to 10, right? We used to say, oh, we'll count to 10. This one can replace that, right? We do a little breathing first. This helps too. The second one is a great one that we can teach, especially to our young kids, which is, I can stop and feel my breathing. So the first thing that we do is we put our hands out like a stop sign and say, I can stop, right? So that's that self-regulation piece. I recognize things are getting a little heated or getting a little dysregulated, put my hands up and I say, I can stop. And then with hands on our belly, we say, I can feel my breathing. We just want to spend a second there, just recognizing and intentionally slowing our breathing. And then we say to ourselves, peaceful and calm, I am ready to maybe get back to work. Peaceful and calm, I am ready to talk to my sister about what, the disagreement we're having. Whatever it might be, right? But that's also that mantra that I am peaceful, I am calm. I am peaceful, I am calm. So this incorporates a lot of those things. So this is a really great one to teach our kids. All right, and then the last one I have, I fibbed and I said I had 2 mindfulness exercises. I guess I put 3 in here and forgot. So grounding exercise. Great one when we need to be present, when we want to come back to a place where we want to be able to focus, right? Or calm that midbrain and come to a place where we can be in the moment. First thing I want you to do is just notice 5 things around you. Look around the room and just notice 5 things that you can see. And then 4 things that you could touch. 4 things that if you walked over and touched them, you would know what the texture was. Three things that you can hear. And what are the things you're hearing right now, right? Maybe you're hearing the whiz of your computer, or maybe there's a dog barking. I can hear a fountain, I can hear water. 2 things that you can smell. And then lastly is 1 thing that you could taste, right? And don't underestimate the power of cold water when we talk about something when you can taste. Icy water. It actually kind of calms your amygdala. You hydrate yourself. When we're learning new things, we need to drink twice as much water as during normal circumstances. And right, here's my argument right now is we're all learning new things all day long. So go to the water, drink a lot, drink more water. This is another great exercise that you can do with your kids when they need to kind of be present, when they need to feel grounded. And if they are younger, or and they want to get up and touch those 5 things, or go to the 3 things they can hear, that's fine. Let them get up and move around and do that. That's great. Because we're just sitting here on the computer screen, I stay still instead of going to them. But yeah, so that's another great one. So yeah, you got 3 mindfulness exercises today out of me. All right, and then just remember, you are what we need. You are what your kids need. You, not anything extra. They really would always choose you over everything else. Doesn't seem that way all the time, but they really would. All right, questions, thoughts, comments, conversations.
I want to say something. I think as parents, we have to be also very intentional to show our children and to let them know that we adults make a lot of mistakes too. And when you own your mistakes, you are teaching by example. And that's something that my husband and I talk about. And I said, during lunchtime, dinner, let's talk about something that was very challenging and how we're overcoming this situation. Because our children, especially the oldest ones, think that adults are perfect, and there's something wrong with them. And that's not the case. And I was making a cake not long ago, and I had to put the frosting 3 times in the trash can. And it hurt a lot because it was organic, And I was so frustrated, and I started like breathing, it's like, it's just the cherry on top of my cake, I need to redo this frosting. So during mealtime, I told them how frustrated I was and how disheartened I was and how sad I was because I was throwing away money. And I ended up having my husband run into the store buying more powdered sugar because I threw everything away. And I said, and I felt like throwing the towel, like I don't want to do this anymore. But guess what? I really wanted to enjoy a cake later on for all of us. So, through that, you teach your children that nothing is perfect, that we are all human and we all make mistakes. And I think that's very important for our teens and our children to know.
Yeah, and to see you keep trying, right? You didn't give up. You didn't say, forget it, not doing this anymore. I can't do it, right? You just said, all right, I'm going to just keep trying until I figure out how to get it done. So yeah, amazing example to your kids. The other thing that is okay to do, which I wasn't raised like this, and maybe some of you were raised the same way I was, which was that we didn't apologize to our kids, right? Nobody would ever say, oh, I really lost it earlier, or I didn't handle that in a way that I'm proud of, and I just want to apologize to you, right? It's okay. You're also modeling that good behavior and building connection and letting them know, right? There was a day when I kind of lost it with my daughter when she was away at college, and I remember calling her a couple hours later and saying, sweetheart, I really didn't handle that in a way that I'm proud of. I'm sorry. Can we try that again? You know, can we just start again with that conversation? Because that didn't make me really proud, and you deserve better, right? Let me try. And so doing that was such a relationship builder for us too, right? It's an opportunity to teach and to learn and to build connection and to just break old molds too, right? But I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. So let me be intentional. When we make mistakes and redo something, we actually learn more intently. We actually are more effective learners than if we get it right the first time, right? So if I make a mistake, Virginia's never going to forget what she did the third time she made that frosting, because now she knows, right? Yeah, you really learned it. Whereas you might not have learned it so well if you'd only had to do it if you got it right the first time, right? There wouldn't have been as much learning. So we should celebrate when our kids make a mistake, when they have to try something a few times over, because they're really learning a skill when that happens. So yeah, great. And I hope the cake came out well, Virginia. I'm sure it did. I like what's going on at Virginia's house. Hugs, reassurance, cake. To me, that's just perfect. All right, anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. Thank you for your program. Because although we read, we practice through daily experiences, there's nothing like being reinforced by what you're sharing with us, or just reassuring me that what I'm doing, trying, making mistakes, coming back, learning again, adapting, it is. So that reinforcement that you give us as parents is very refreshing and very needed. So I missed you guys the last couple of weeks with the adjustment of going back to in-person, but I'm glad to be back. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. It's good to see you back. I'm happy that you're back, and I appreciate that, because that's what I try to do, right? That's why
and you do a good job of it. Yeah, you do a good job. Just like in person, when I used to see you in person at Jackson, you still have that connection. I know with everybody, with me, and like I said, as a parent, sometimes you're just going through the motions and you think that you're doing something right, and it's a trial and error. But then when you hear somebody like you sharing your knowledge, your experience, and then what you last said was like, wow, you know what, you're trying. And then you're the only person as a parent that's best for your children and your family. I never heard it put that way till today. And that's like, wow, that was like wow moment for me. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the power of Virginia and Julia and this entire team. I just want to say how hard this team works to make sure that we're able to provide this to parents every week. Jeff Albert from Collaborate Pasadena has been the guru in figuring out how to get this translated so that we don't have to do tandem translation. We're doing the simultaneous. And not only that, how to record it and on both languages and have it out there. Rosie and Rosa every week are just on it and with us and supporting and supportive of me and what I'm doing. And then of course we always have a wonderful translator. So this team, it takes a team. It's not just Liz. There's a lot of people behind Liz making sure that this goes so that you guys can see it. So I just want to thank all of them as well. All right, next week, what are we talking about next week? Next week, we're going to talk about flexible and accurate thinking. So we'll dig into that next week. And thanks you all so much. We're happy to be here today.